Hi, I'm Wendy Apple with Wending Path, and today I'm going to be drawing the NeuroTree for health. So get out some paper and your markers and let's get started. This is what a NeuroTree looks like. Yours will look a little bit different, of course. Everybody's looks a little bit different, but just to give you an image of what we're going for here, we've got the roots of the tree, and we've got the trunk and the crown, and we'll be working on the elements that make up each of those pieces as we go along. So I've got my blank piece of paper. I always write the today's date and my topic and name of my algorithm on the back of my drawing, and I encourage you to do that. Hopefully one day you'll have so many drawings that you'll want to go back and look at some and see what you were doing way back when. So I'm going to start this drawing with my medium-sized marker here. And the first thing we do with this drawing is we start with the outside edges of the trunk. So I'm going to make a neuro line to do that. It's kind of a guided neuro line because, of course, I'm trying to make it look a little bit like the exterior of a tree, the trunk and the exterior of the crown. But it's still an organic line. It's got some movement in it. It looks natural. It's not straight, but kind of two C's on either side here. So the bottom third of the paper roughly represents our roots. The middle is the trunk, as I said, and that's the present time, and then the crown. So we're going to look at our past and our present and our future, kind of dividing the paper into thirds. So once we have the outline of our tree started, we're going to start at the bottom of the paper and draw neuro lines through the trunk and all the way up to the crown. A neuro line is an organic line. It is a line that doesn't repeat itself anywhere along its path. It's not a regular pattern. It has plenty of gentle curves in it. And we're just going to keep doing this all the way from the bottom of our paper all the way up, and I'm just letting the pen guide me along, making plenty of loops that will make room for our circles that turn into fruit at the top of the tree. And there are no rules here as far as how many lines you need to draw. You draw as many as feel right to you, till you feel like your tree has enough support, enough energy running through it. I'm going to do just a couple more here. It's always interesting to see how my lines, well, I don't intend it, often go in the exact same, cross right over one another. So that must be an important line. That's what that tells me, is that space is very important. So I feel like the tree has enough lines. It's certainly in the center, and I'm going to add just a few more, but I'm going to focus on this bottom third just to kind of fill that out a little bit. So I'll start anywhere where there's another line. I just grab onto it and fill it out. And I guess I can also start at the bottom and go up. And I just want to make it kind of as dense as I have things up here. I want to make it down here to help me find the seeds and support roots in the bottom of the tree that help me get where I am. So I'll just do a few more. Now today, as I said, this is a tree about health. So I'm going to be focusing on my health. So we're going to start with the bottom third of the tree, which is the roots. So if you look at your tree, and you've got the roots down here and the crown, as I said, not these roots, some of these are underground. So I'm going to go ahead just for visually to help me a little bit. to help me picture this a little bit. And I'm going to make a nice gentle line here, just a kind of a light line. And that, sorry about that, that represents my my horizon. Just kind of reminding me visually, grounding my tree, that this part of the root system is underground, just a little bit above ground. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look for semicircles or partial circles that that are already finished in my mind, in my mind's eye, and I'm going to finish them off here with my pen. So there's a nice curve that I can turn into a circle. And here's one here. And I'm going to make several of these circles. And these circles already, like I said, already partially exist. And I'm just filling them out. They can overlap one another. They can vary in size. This one's quite a bit bigger than the others. And again, there's no particular number. It's really what it seems like to you that you want to include. So I'll just keep adding till I feel like I have the right number. And if at any point during this video you get behind, you feel free to pause it, and you can catch up with me and then turn it back on. So I'm going to get just a few more here. I'm going to do one down here at the bottom. And this one is going off the page, but that's okay. And maybe one more here where I've got this little curve. All right, now I want to make sure there are lines going through all of my circles to help support this growth. So this circle, of course, already has a lot of lines, and this one does, and this one does. But I'm just going to take my marker and I'm just going to go through a couple of these seeds, I'll call them seeds, where, like here, where there is no line, and I'm just going to add a line to incorporate it into the growth of the tree. Make sure that we're giving it plenty of energy. So these circles represent the seeds of my health. And for each of us, excuse me, for each of us, these are going to be different things. Okay, they're going to represent different things to each of us. So I'm going to start now. I've got my seeds in place. I've added my additional lines, and the next thing I'm going to do is round. If you've done any Neurographica, you know about rounding. And so what I do with rounding is I take intersections, and I just, where there's a V, I just smooth it out. I turn V's into U's. And as I'm doing that, I'm thinking a little bit about any of the seeds that I'm working on or near, and thinking, in this case, in this drawing, about my health and about how I got to the place I am today. If you've been to my website and read my story, you know that I've had health issues for the last 15 years or so, and have been dealing with those, and I'm much better. And so I'm thinking about how to continue on the trajectory of better health, and thinking about what these seeds for my current health situation might be. So in my case, one of my seeds might be my past health issues, my past poor health, which is an incentive to be healthier. So I'm going to label this seed my past illness. You can choose to label your seeds, or what some people like to do is put a number in the seed instead of words, and then maybe make a little chart on the back. So if I put a number 1 here, I'd make some notes on the back of my paper about what number 1 represented. But this drawing's just for me, and I don't mind writing right in there. So there's that. With each one, I'm thinking about what some of those seeds are. So of course, another seed for me is all the healing that I did, going from a wheelchair to being mobile again, going from spending my life on the couch to being up and walking around and teaching Neurographica. So I'm going to also put my past healing down here as one of my seeds. That's illness and that's healing for me. And again, for you, your seeds may be different. Your seeds can go back all the way through your life. Maybe you had a sickly childhood, or maybe you had a very healthy childhood, and so that's something that helped you. Maybe you had people in your life who were inspirational to you to live a long life, or to live particularly healthy behaviors, or the opposite. Maybe you grew up in a family or in an environment where health wasn't valued and wasn't prioritized. And so that might be a seed for you. So a seed can be both negative or positive, just depending on what got you to where you are today. Sometimes those negative things spur us on to doing things a little bit differently. And of course, sometimes the positive things do. So you pick and choose how those things have impacted you through your life. And of course, how you grew up and any of your attitudes toward health or health care. And your own idea of what healthy looks like will have an impact too. We each have our own version of that. So you're just going to keep on rounding down here in the seeds. And get this area all rounded off. And often when I'm rounding, of course, my lines will get a little bit thicker. But if you don't want that to happen, you can use a little thinner marker. I do often tend to go over my lines as I'm rounding. Helps me round and helps me reinforce the information. Neurographica is all about neuroplasticity and rewiring our brains. So today I am working on this drawing to hopefully reset my brain into a healthier mindset, excuse me, and make it easier to focus on activities and choices that will be best for my personal health. So that's why I decided to write on health today. Or draw on health, I should say. Now, sometimes you're going to know exactly what each of your seeds are Sometimes your intuition is speaking to you and you can figure that out very easily. And other times it's harder. It's harder to remember. It's harder to figure out, and it's okay to leave the seeds down here in your roots. It's okay to leave them unlabeled if you're not sure what they represent, and maybe as you're drawing along something will come to you and you'll want to toss in a label, and that's okay too. The order of how we come up with these answers is not terribly important. We're generally drawing from the bottom to the top on this drawing because our metaphor here is a tree growing like a tree from the roots up. But a tree keeps growing all the time, and as long as it's healthy, and adding to its roots all the time, adding to its crown, trunk getting a little bigger. So as you think of things you want to add to the bottom, so I'm just going to take a minute here to reflect on what else some of my seeds might represent. Let me think here. Well, let's see. I certainly have genetics playing a role in my health. Some of us come from families very healthy stock, and others less so. One half of my family genetically is very long-lived, and the other is substantially less so. So it's not a good predictor for me. Another thing that affects many of us is our traumas from the past, and what we're doing with those. If we've been doing healing work, which I certainly have been doing for many years, I'm also going to list examples, that is, people that I admire in terms of how they've brought their health, created a focus on making themselves, keeping themselves healthy, as well as examples of people who choose not to, and how that choice affects them. I'm going to color in these smaller spaces because they're not really necessary for what I'm doing. And I'm just highlighting and thinking some more about my past. And then I'm going to put, nope, I got that already. All right, I think I'm going to leave the rest of my seeds unlabeled because, of course, there are so many things either that I'm not thinking of in my past, or, of course, things in my past that I'm not even aware of. Whether that's from past lives or from childhood things that I've forgotten. All of these things impact us and our health. So now I'm going to focus on the trunk. So from here to here, roughly the middle third of the paper. And in that case, we just have a smaller area to work from, the trunk. And I'm going to do exactly what I did down here. I'm looking for circles that already exist. So here's one here. And I'm just going to finish those arcs out into complete circles. So there's one. And of course, like I said before, they can overlap. And they vary in size. And you may find more as you're going along, and that's fine. Just find as many as you feel called to see or that jump out at you. I've seen trees that are completely full of circles and trees that just have a few. and neither is wrong or right. They're both just the way you're choosing to interpret this exercise, and that's okay. Let's see. And you notice that some of my circles are kind of bridging the gap, and that's okay too. You know, emerging seeds or moving into the crown, all of those things are all okay. So this is my tree and my life and my journey, and I can do it in whatever way makes sense for me in the moment. So I feel like that's enough circles for me in the center. And again, I encourage you to pause the video if you've gotten behind. And get caught up here. Get all your circles drawn in, and then we begin rounding again. Now right away I see that I've got a couple circles that don't have many lines in them, so I'm just going to go ahead and add this line, and I can start it, as long as I start it where there's already another line and I can round it into place, that's okay. That follows our basic algorithm, our rules of Neurographica. We just can't have lines that just kind of hang out in space. They need to be touching something. And for any of you who have not taken a basic user course in Neurographica, I strongly recommend it. It is a great way to understand what I'm doing here, what those steps are, and how to apply Neurographica in your own life to clear some of your blockages that are holding you back, and to give you more freedom and, interestingly, more joy. It's really fun to watch students in the basic user course really kind of uncover the mysteries of Neurographica and discover all the incredible things that that they get out of it. So people through the course of the course really become more joyful, and that is rewarding for me, very fun to see. And of course it always reminds me of my own journey through all of this. So as we're drawing and rounding and reinforcing these shapes, we're imprinting some of this information into our brains, into our neural connections, helping us to be better in touch with whatever message we're trying to get, whatever information. So again, this one's on health, so thinking about things I might change in my life, things I might do differently to create a healthier framework for myself. And also gives me a chance to pat myself on the back, celebrate myself a little bit, recognizing how far I've come, recognizing what a journey it's been, going from an outwardly, at least outwardly healthy person to an outwardly physically debilitated, dysfunctional person, and back out again. And again, if you want to read this story in depth, nobody needs to, but if you want to, I have it on my website, wendingpath.com. So Neurographica was an important part of that journey for me, an important piece of my healing, really a big piece of a big piece of my peace, a big piece of how I brought peace and stability into my life. As I describe in my story, I was getting healthy through many interesting modalities and a lot of really talented people helping me. But I still was having trouble embracing this new health and doing anything with it. And I don't know if you would say accepting that I was healthy or acting as if I was healthy. It was quite a transition, and NeuroGraphica played a tremendous role in that and finding my joy again. So the basic user course is the best way to kind of get your feet wet and learn NeuroGraphica and figure out what it might be able to do for you. These courses on YouTube are great, and that's how many of us discover NeuroGraphica and experiment with it. And still, I suggest that the basic user course is, once you decide NeuroGraphica really can help you, it's the way to learn it and make it a part of your regular health practice. Drawing meditation, we often call it. All right, so I think I've rounded my trunk thoroughly. And again, pause your video at any point. I sometimes go in with I don't know if you can see, with a finer liner pen to really smooth off my roundings. Just depends on how particular I'm being. Health is a thorny topic for me, and the more we round, the less we take out the conflicts, or the more we take out the conflicts, the less conflicts we have, and the more harmonized we become with this idea that we're working on. So let me think. So then these circles, to the extent that you want to label them, are going to be about your present situation. What are you doing right now? What does your health look like right now? What are you doing to take care of yourself? So in my case, I am eating very well, very consciously about what I put in my body. Let's see. These circles are so full of lines, they're hard to see. I have a good exercise program that I feel good about. So I'm going to put that down there. I have, as I was just describing, I have found my joy again. There was a long time in my life, even after I was physically well, where I wasn't comfortable really in my life. I wasn't sure why, but that is gone. I've found my joy, and so I want to celebrate that. So that's present now. Let's see, and along with finding that joy, I developed a desire to be healthy, a desire to keep myself, make myself strong, and to live a long life. And that's a change for me. And I think I am also going to put one down for care, medical care. I've addressed some issues and feel pretty good about that right now, and the way that I'm taking care of myself and the support that I'm getting in this self-care. So I think that's all I'm going to put in my current bubbles trunk. And so I invite you to consider what you might put in your current health and how you might label those things, again, to help cement them in your mind. And if you if you want to leave some blank, that's okay. We don't always know in our conscious mind all the things that we're grateful for or that are true. That doesn't mean they don't exist. All right, so once you feel like you've addressed the trunk, then we're going to go up to the canopy. And I've already got several lines up here, but it's not as full as the rest of my tree. So I am going to go ahead and add a few more neuro lines. And I can start them wherever I want as long as it's off of another line, right? Our neuro lines don't just hang out in space. And again, these are organic lines with some curvature, some natural movement. That's how we find our circles. And up here in the canopy of the tree, we'll call these circles fruits. We had our seeds. I'm not sure what we call the circles in the trunk, our present life. I don't know what those would be called, but anyway, up in the top we call them fruit. Now the fruit, or the canopy of the tree, represents our future. So in the past we have the things that made us who we are or where we are on our health journey, our attitudes and events that occurred in our lives. And in the trunk, we talk about what's happening for us currently in our health. Where are we? And recognizing how things are. And then in the canopy, up here in the branches with the leaves, our fruits are what we want to see happen in the future of our health. So we'll have to think about that a little bit, about what we want our health to look like if we want it to change. And if we continue on the path we are on, what would be some of the fruits of that labor? And that helps us just to appreciate where we might go and also recognize the value of some of the work we're doing in the present and how that pays off in the future. Oops, like this. So once you're comfortable that you have enough neuro lines in the top, we're going to do just like we did before. We're going to find some circles where we already see little arcs. And just like before, this is an intuitive practice. So however many you see or you feel you need, you go ahead and draw. And if you start drawing and feel like, oh, I didn't put in enough lines, then that's fine. Just add some more lines. Sometimes people get so excited about this canopy, start thinking about all the different possibilities in their future, fill up the whole thing with fruit, and that's great. If you want to do that, that's okay. And maybe as we're drawing, you'll see more. I'm going to make a really big circle here. As I think about how my life might change, the potential for change, for improvement, for gifts in my future, as my health continues to improve, as I continue to take good care of myself. Oh my goodness, I'm finding so many circles up here. Another thing with this drawing is sometimes people get so excited they kind of run out of space. And let you know that you don't ever have to run out of space on a NeuroGraphica drawing. You can always tape another piece of paper up to the top or off to the side. The only thing I would suggest is that if you do that, if you decide, oh my goodness, the canopy's not big enough, I need more paper to really represent all these amazing things, please keep your tree balanced so it's not top heavy. So if you add some space at the top, add some space at the bottom as well to represent that increased support that you have for this increased growth you're imagining. We want our trees to be balanced. So you may have to go a little deeper into your past in order to go a little further out into your future. Always get thirsty when I draw Neurographica. All right, so just like we did down here, we are going to round. And again, rounding in Neurographica is where we take the sharp angles, the V's or the triangles, and we round them into nice U's. In Neurographica, the corners, the sharp angles represent conflict, represent blocks on our path, represent things being more difficult than maybe they need to be. And so we, on a harmonious drawing like this where we're trying to draw a positive future, it's a good idea to round everything carefully and make sure that you are in the best place you can possibly be, free of conflict, for the best result you can possibly get. And that takes a little while. But as you do more and more drawings, you'll get faster and faster with your rounding. You'll get more efficient. You'll get more comfortable. Depending on how much conflict you have in your life, how much conflict you work with normally, you may find the rounding to be a little more challenging, a little more tedious. But Neurographica is a great tool for bringing that peace and calm into your life. And it very weirdly, I think weirdly, it feels strange, comes with this process of rounding, which once you get a little bit used to it, is a very soothing practice. All right, now I know my tree's upside down, but it's a little bit easier for me to round if I do that. So that's what I'm doing here. See, on some of these spots I just draw a little circle inside the blob, or I draw a smooth blob inside of a spiky blob, and then I clean off the spikes. But you'll find a method that works best for you. Just takes some practice. And again, we go over and over this in the basic user course until it becomes second nature. And some people start dreaming about Neurographica, dreaming about the lines, or other people talk about seeing neurographic lines everywhere they look, all around them in nature. And that's interesting too, and fun. The first stage of Neurographica, the first learning in the basic user course, is largely about clearing our blocks. You know how we are as humans set in our patterns and creating blocks to stop us from achieving our full potential. And so the lessons we teach in the basic user course are primarily addressing that, helping us clear those blocks. And then once we get beyond that, there are other courses you might choose to take. Many people don't, and that's okay, and many people do, and that's okay. But for those who are interested, we then move on to neurocomposition and beyond, where we learn how to, now that we're free of many of our blocks, we begin to learn how to design, draw, create our futures using these neurographic principles and the law of attraction, and of course our neuroplasticity, to begin to change our mindset and think toward a different, not just more harmonious future, but a broader future, a limitless future, a future of possibilities. And it doesn't matter how old you are. I'm 62, and I actually didn't expect to live this long because of my illnesses, but even after that, I found it hard to imagine that anything new would come into my life, and wasn't even sure that drawing about my future made any sense. But it did. Turned out it did. And I drew a lot in NeuroGraphica. I drew about NeuroGraphica, and now I'm an instructor. So life takes us on in unexpected ways, and NeuroGraphica is a fantastic tool to get us there. Break those old patterns and set ourselves up for new possibilities. So I'm just continuing to round as I'm going through here. I want to get all my little circles rounded, and again, as I'm rounding, thinking a little bit about the possibilities of my future, what it might look like if I were even healthier, how it looks maintaining my good health for many, many years, what possibilities are open to me as a healthy person who has a lot of freedom, less responsibilities than I did when I was a younger person. Getting close. I put a lot of lines in this top, so it's taking a little bit longer. I think my tree might be, yeah, I think my tree might be a little unbalanced, a little top heavy. I think I will add to the bottom of my tree. I'm not going to do that on this video though. The video will go on forever if I do that. But I think this tree might need a little more support at the bottom. I kind of get excited when I get into the future and tend to go a little overboard. So I'll plan to add some more to the bottom. Tape a little bit more paper down here, I think. Whew, that's a lot of rounding. All right, getting close here. So after you've taken the basic user course, then I've got a club that meets several times a month. We do videos, we do drawings together, we look at each other's drawings and um, help each other see what we might have missed, because it can be hard to see things in our own drawings and much easier to see things in other people's. So we do that. Talk about some other interesting things in NeuroGraphica, and so I would love to have you in that group as well. You do have to take the basic user course first, but you don't have to necessarily take it with me. If you've already taken the course elsewhere, you can join our group. That group is called Pathfinders. That's a really great group of people exploring options in Neurographica. Whew, goodness. All right, I think I've got enough. I'm going to think a little bit about, I'm just going to label a few of these fruits with things that I imagine in my future as my health continues to improve, as I continue to take good care of myself mentally and physically, and grow and joy. So let's see. I'm going to add longevity here, which I might have spelled right. I want to remain capable, physically capable, as I grow older. I'm not looking forward, as I'm sure most of us are not, to a time when I have to be physically cared for. I have had that in my life before, and I'd rather not have that happen ever again. Let's see. My energy is good. It's stronger than it's been in probably nearly 20 years. But I'd love to see it even grow more. And then I think I just want to label one experiences, just generally, the different things that are going to happen in my life, more of them if I'm well enough to meet the experiences. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. So I've got quite a few that aren't labeled, which is fine, because I don't know what the future holds, what the possibilities are. I certainly 5 years ago would not have believed I would be recording videos on YouTube and teaching people about Neurographica. So who knows what the next 5 years will bring. So I will leave a lot of these unlabeled, but you can choose to do what you want. I'll encourage you to leave at least a couple unlabeled in the canopy, in your fruits, just because we want to leave room for what Pavel Piskarov, the creator of Neurographica, often calls surprises. We will have many surprises in the future, and that's a good thing. So I'm going to leave room for plenty of surprises. So now that we've finished our roots and our trunk and our crown and gotten things labeled as we want to, and if we feel okay about the lines that we've drawn, then the next thing to do is to begin coloring. And I like to do that myself with colored pencils. That's what I typically use. And I typically like to highlight my circles with a color to help bring my focus to those areas. So, and of course, as I'm looking at my drawing, I'm always going to see a little bit of spaces where I could round better. So I keep my pen handy for that. And I also will find little areas that I decide should just be colored in because they're too hard to round. They're too small, and that makes them a little bit distracting. So if you look up and see me doing that, you'll know why. That's what I do. I'm a recovering perfectionist, as one of my students often says about herself. So anyway, I think I am going to use a purple color up here on my fruits. That's often the hardest thing for me, is to figure out what color I'm going to use. Sometimes I just choose blindly, spin my pencils around and grab one, and other times I'm more thoughtful. Sometimes I make my trees fairly realistic. Sometimes they're very fantastical. Sometimes they really look like trees when I'm done, and other times they look a little more Dr. Seussy. So it's your piece, and you do what you want with it. As you can tell, this pen is just about used, or pencil, it's just about used up. I try to hang on to them until I can't get it in the pencil sharpener anymore. And this one is very, very close. See if I actually find all the fruits. I often don't. I see them later when I'm adding more color. They kind of get hidden in here. That's okay. Not very far in my perfectionism recovery. Still getting in there and trying to fix things. If colored pencils aren't your thing, another popular tool for coloring in Neurographica is highlighters. Pavel is very fond of highlighters. And some people use markers, alcohol markers, and that's okay too. Got to be a little bit more careful with the markers, because if the color is too dark, it can kind of obliterate your black lines, and we don't want to do that in Neurographica. Our black lines represent our thoughts, and we want to be able to see those. So if you go with your alcohol markers, you'll want to pick the lighter colored ones. They also tend to bleed through your paper, so got to be careful with that. Protect your surface. And I usually write a lot of notes on the back of my paper. Not just the date and what I'm drawing about, but I make other notes back there about my feelings and ideas that come to me while I'm drawing. And can't do that when I use markers, because it kind of blocks everything, or obliterates anything I write on the back bleeding through. You know, I'm seeing this circle right here. I don't know if you can see it, but see that right there? And I just feel like I have to draw it in. So there you go, one more. I just felt like it was calling to me. Okay. So that must represent something important. I don't know what, but it needed to be there, so now it's there. Okay. I'm pretty sure I got all my fruits. So I'm going to color. I'm going to color my trunk, my present circles. I don't know. Again, I don't have a fancy word for them. They're not seeds and they're not fruit. So maybe there's sap. Maybe there's sap going up to feed the tree. I don't know. In any case, does sap even run up or does it run down? I don't even know that. Anyway, I'm going to draw in pink, obviously. Let's see, I think this one is part of the trunk. I think that's my trunk, but I have another circle that I see that I can't let go right here. Goes right through my desire circle. My desire for a long life. My desire to be healthy. That's a big one. Important one, I mean. Okay. I think that's good. You can see how you could easily fill up the entire tree just with the circles. So much energy. So what color? I know this is a little bit weird, but I think I'm gonna do red. That pink looks awfully red though. I bet that's gonna look, let's see. It was my first thought, so I'm gonna do it. I'll have to make these extra red and the pinks very pinky so that they look different. Let's see. They don't have to look different, by the way. That's just, and they don't look very different on camera. They look a little bit more different here in person, but not much. But I'll do some shading. before I'm done, and then it'll be more obvious that they're different. Again, not that that matters. You can make all of your circles blend in, or all of them stand out, or all of them be the same color, or all of them be different colors. I've done that before too, where it has kind of a polka dot circusy feeling, where you get all the different colors in there. It all works. All works. Let's see, I found an extra circle in the other two sections. Let's see if I have one that jumps out here. Sort of. I sort of feel like this genetics one, like there's a bigger circle around here that goes like this. Kind of, it really encompasses that other circle. Let's see. Maybe that's... I'm trying to think of what that could symbolize. Maybe it's overcoming genetics. I don't know. Boy, I do have to say that pink and red, though, looks pretty similar. Alright, well, when you see it all done, we'll see if I can make it look different. Okay. That looks pretty good. Now, I'm a little too realistic. I almost always color parts of my trunk brown. Brown and gray, typically. But I really like doing that because those colors represent grounding and stability to me. And trees represent grounding and stability to me, so I kind of like that. In Neurographica, probably should have told you this before we started coloring. No color stands alone. So if you color something one color, then at least one shape next to it needs to be that color as well. So we took care of our fruits by making lines go through them. But it's something to keep in mind as you're drawing inside your tree, choosing your colors. You don't want to change. I guess it's not that it doesn't have a mosaic look where there's lots of different colors, and that's because we are unifying, integrating we've created these small pieces, and now we're integrating those shapes into one set of ideas, emotions, archetypes, actually, is what we say. But so we want to join them when we make these larger shapes by coloring things next to each other. I've taken this string of shapes and turned it all brown. So this idea is growing up from the bottom. And that's one of my preferred ways to color, is I like to put two different shades of a color in a space where I'm coloring. It makes the color richer, So I've just got a second brown here, a darker brown, and I'm coloring it right over the top of the other brown. That is not a Neurographica thing, that's just a Wendy thing. So don't worry about it if that doesn't grab you. I typically do more work refining the drawing, making it prettier, if you like, after I get through all the steps, so that I don't do work that I then end up putting a marker right through. And I'll show you what I mean in a minute. But this particular, adding this darker brown on top of this lighter brown was kind of bothering me, so I wanted to get that on there right away. I don't know how well you can tell on the camera. Nah, not terribly well, but it really does give a much darker, not darker, variation to the color, more interesting hues on the color, which I really like. I'm just going to do one more real quick. So of course you can spend lots and lots of time coloring your drawing, and that's fine. Entirely up to you. It's your drawing and you do whatever you want with it. Like I said, I typically do that part of the drawing a little bit later. Okay, so that is my oops, there we go. That's my brown. And now I'm going to do some gray. Again, I do almost everything fairly light coloring. Oh, you almost can't even see that on the screen. But I do some fairly light coloring at this stage, and then come back and shade it later, after we do our final lines, because we still have another set of lines and one more shape to highlight. So I like to do that after. Sometimes when the camera adjusts, you can see the color a little better, but it still looks pretty pretty light on the screen there. And we can also leave parts of our drawing white. That's perfectly fine. We just treat that exactly like we would treat a color. So I've got this one white and this one white. As long as they're next to each other, that's okay. Excuse me. Goodness. All right. I think that looks pretty good. Now, we do something called field lines in Neurographica, and that's where we bring in the power of the universe to help support us in our topic. And on this beautiful tree, we always want to do our first two neural lines on the exterior of the tree shape. And that is, oops, I should go from the bottom up. That is representing the power of the universe, universal energy, source, a higher power, whatever, however you like to think of that. And we want to do that in a way on the outside to kind of bring our energy, kind of support that energy and funnel it up to our future, bringing up the roots and all the way up from the future. But we also want some of that energy to come right through our tree and through some of our shapes, and this is why I frequently don't do any serious shading or anything other than sketching in the colors until I'm done. So I'm going to make neuro lines, so they're going to have some curves that go up through the center of my tree, just like the other lines did, but notice they're thicker. They stand out more because, of course, universal source energy is stronger than my internal energy. And it's just a gentle curve. I can follow lines that are already there or create new ones, either way. And it's just important that these lines are thicker, more pronounced, excuse me, than the neuro lines that we drew already. So I'm going to take them through some of my fruit. And I'm going to go ahead and do even one more. You know, this is an important topic for me, and I want the energy of the universe on my side, standing behind me and helping support me. Now, we did rounding with our neuro lines like I showed you. We're also going to round these field lines into place, and we want to do that very thoughtfully and generously. So I'm just going to go right up the side of this line and make sure it's well rounded into place. And what happens when we do that is the field line looks like it's part of the drawing, like it's inside the drawing, as opposed to sitting on top of it. So I think you can see on the camera where these two lines, where I haven't done any rounding yet, feel very much like what I did, which was to plop them right on top of everything. And so now, by rounding these lines into place, I'm making them feel like they are part of the drawing, part of the energy of the drawing, part of the tree, right there supporting me. So I'm just going to go right up the tree and round each one into place. So you can see I covered up some, with these nice thick lines, I covered up some parts of the fruits, and that's okay. All the pieces are still there. They all still exist. Okay, that was one line, and I'm just going to keep going along. Get all the lines in. And I hope you can see as I go that where I take the time and do it thoroughly, it makes a big difference with how that line is then perceived on my drawing. It really makes it stand out. And yes, I draw right over my words where I need to. That's okay. It's a funny thing about these shapes and about drawing like this is that your subconscious is really working hard right now, and it knows what all those shapes represent. You don't have to have that conscious mind reminder about what each circle represents. You by thinking about each circle and drawing it, you set an intention for that energy, and that intention is already set in motion and is just being reinforced by this process. Okay, I think that one looks pretty good. One more. Well, I'll check the, I didn't do the ones on the outside of the trunk. I will check those as well. I tried to draw outside the tree as opposed to inside the tree, so those may already be rounded sufficiently. I'll have to check. And you can see anywhere where I have a very small colored space or the lines get really close together, one way to deal with that is just to cover it with this black marker. Which makes the whole picture blend better and be more seamless. When you leave a lot of those tiny colored spaces, they tend to really draw your eye. We often hear instructors refer to those as bubbles, but they tend to draw your eye and create a busy look on your drawing. And I'm just going to turn this around. For some of us, they can represent an excessive attention to detail, where maybe your attention to detail gets in the way of you actually accomplishing your goals. So you can experiment with that and see how it works. So like here where I have this little tiny gray line, I'm just gonna cover that up, and here's a little tiny space. And this horizon line I'm not going to worry about, because that was really just there to help me see where the horizon was. I think this one, I think that outer one was rounded in place okay. Let's see about this one. All right. Now I'm going to take my fine marker, and one of the principles in Neurographica is that nothing occurs in a vacuum. We're all part of a bigger ecosystem all around us in our lives, and people and things and are always changing our trajectory, influencing us. And so we like to add neurolines, which again are these wiggly organic lines that don't have a pattern, don't repeat themselves, and represent that concept by connecting our tree to the background. And that would mean to the edge of the page. So that's what I'm going to do now. So a little trickier to round these little skinny lines into place, but I will pull it off. So I start by taking my my medium marker and going up the line just a little bit, and then I take my thin one. I don't know if you can see around my hand, but you'll be able to see it when I'm done. And I just kind of taper that line off, just like a river, you know, going down a tributary, breaking off into a little stream. So there we go. There's that one, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. My pen is running out of ink, I think. It's hardly showing up on the camera. It's hardly showing up here too. All right. Here we go. So if you haven't seen it, I've got a video on YouTube and also on my website called Getting Started with NeuroGraphica. And it's a great introductory lesson that you're welcome to watch, and it'll give you a sense of a little more sense. I mean, you've got some from here, but a sense of the things that we will be studying in the basic user course, if that's something you'd like to pursue. I really, really strongly recommend it for anybody who wants to keep drawing. Okay, now the last formal piece of the drawing is to pick a focal point on our drawing that kind of represents this goal that we're working on. So, you know, in my case here, I'm thinking about good health, and I'm thinking about I'm thinking about which one of these circles, and it could be a circle that's labeled, it could be a circle that's not labeled, and in fact you can add an entirely new circle if you want. I think I am going to go, and all these circles seem important, it's hard to pick one. I think I'm going to go with this longevity circle, which is kind of bigger than the others. And so what we do is we circle it with our big thick marker. And I actually want this one to be even thicker than those other field lines that were coming up. So I kind of doubled the line. And then also I round this into place just like we've done it with everything else. Again, with this circle, it sort of looks like it's sitting on top of the paper until I round it into place. So I'm going to do that. Let's see if I can do that. And then when I go back to doing my coloring, I will make a point of doing something to make that circle stand out even more than it already does. And I think what I want to do for that, I'll be able to find my pencils here. I think what I want to do for that is I want to color this green, which I think is probably going to turn this gray. Let's see. Let's see what happens with that. So you want something, you want to do something with this focal point that makes it a focal point, right? You've got a very busy drawing. Most Neurographica drawings are pretty busy because they've got all these lines going. There's all this energy. And you want to direct the viewer, and generally the viewer is mainly you, but you want to direct the viewer to seeing that spot first, to drawing your eye. So I'm going to try to make this one stand out. We'll see if I can do that. So adding a new color or coloring it all one color can often do that, along with the thicker line. So we've got our thicker line, and then we've got this kind of helping it stand out. I like the way that's looking. And I might do a little bit more with the shading when I begin the shading of some of the other colors. So that's my drawing. I will continue to work on coloring it. I encourage you to do that on your drawing as well. And I thank you very much for joining me. And let's see if I can get this switched here. For joining me and learning about this NeuroTree of Health. And I look forward to seeing some of you in the basic user course very soon. Have good health. Enjoy. Bye-bye. So here's my finished tree. I did my shading and some of the other things that I like to do to make the picture feel more like it's mine. I just thought I would show that to you all to inspire you to finish your trees. So good health to all of you, and I'll see you soon.